to the bold analysis. I want to say and repeat here that it will be a big political blunder for someone to contemplate or even to consider arresting Rigathi Gachagua based on his statement or asking William Ruto's relationship with perceived Al-Shabaab and the transactions from Hemedi's Sudan. And I think I saw Rigathi Gachagua's cut short the US speech to come back into the country so that they can prepare for those by-elections. But in this podcast, I'm going to look at two things. The statement on Rigathi, the intent of Rigathi arrest at JKIA upon arrival, and why he's been forced to cut short his US speech. Kindly subscribe his US tour. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our videos. Thank you very much for supporting this podcast. We do this each and every day because of your support. And subscription is absolutely free. The advantage here is when you subscribe to our channel, whenever we publish our videos, you'll be getting notifications. So always we say subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And here we make our political analysis in depth. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start here. I have heard Murkomen saying, or rather Rigathi Gachagua asked the president while talking to the US, and he said that William Ruto has an illicit relationship with perceived Al-Shabaab from the Kenyan north. And this is a double allegation against the president. If you tie it with what Rigathi Gachagua has always been saying about Hemedi, and Rigathi have said it, he appeared in KTN and said, I have evidence. And I have clear evidence, very clear, that if, when I was a deputy president, there were meetings that were called, I was asked to call, so the president would meet some leaders from Sudan, and I have evidence. And he said in the US about it. Yes, we may want to discredit Rigathi. And I agree with Murkomen that if there is an element of madness by a Kenyan, then that Kenyan needs to be taken for emotional therapy. But if Murkomen is looking for someone to take, if Murkomen is looking for someone to take who needs a bit that therapy, then he knows who should be the first culprit for that. And he was asked in an interview about arresting Gachagua. And instead of then arresting Gachagua and charging Gachagua, as they say, I want you to see how he made a U-turn.
Thank you, Waziri. Sometimes they say that to handle matter security, people have to work in silence. Yeah. We have heard of recent times utterances of national insecurity emanating from some of the politicians on the engagement of the deputy president in the US. And he has been dared that he'll be arrested when he comes back. And at one time, you also pronounced yourself to that. He responded to the dare by telling you people that he will tell you the time and the plane that he will. Can you respond to that dare without making it a national insecurity issue?
Well, basically, I thought that I said it clearly yesterday that it is him who voluntarily said that he has information about Kenyan authorities' engagement with Al-Shabaab and negotiating and doing business with Al-Shabaab and so forth. So I thought it's not even a question of being arrested. It is, if he is patriotic enough, he needs to record that statement with the DCI. And that should be the first opportunity is offered. In fact, I thought he was going to say he will tell us the time and the hour is going to arrive, and therefore DCI, prepare yourself, I will be in your office 2 hours after I land. it should behoove him at his position of authority to present himself directly to authorities and record a statement. Not for anything else, for the record. Because if you are going to be making such allegations, it behooves you to make sure that it's on the record. And I say it clearly that if you ask me increasingly, I'm not a doctor, but increasingly the utterances that come from Deputy President are pointing out to two things. Either he's a serious or a pathological liar, who is looking for cheap political publicity, or is an acute case of mental health, who perhaps will be unnecessary for us to spend resources to arrest, but rather to guide him and his loved ones to take him to a mental hospital. Because, and I'm saying this really because he says one thing this month, then he jumps to another. Yeah? He will wake up and tell you that I don't know if it was true, it was him or whatever. You know, I can't keep up with his lies. At one point he will tell you that Kenya Kwanza bought all tickets for Arambe Stars to go to the to the field. The next minute, his deputy party leader is posting pictures from inside there. In any case, we even greeted each other with him and in Kasarani. On 1 minute, he will be saying that I will, you know how he praised his, when we came to office, he announced to the whole world that the coffers were empty. When he was asked recently, he said, no, they were not empty, I lied. And he's not telling people that he lied for the first time. So if he lied that time, who tells you that he's not lying now? But to be very honest, if he was still holding office, any reasonable Kenyan would have asked for a mental assessment for his ability to lead. But now that he's out of office, it is out of compassion that I ask his loved ones to check him in for mental health.
But if I may ask, why don't you handle this thing behind the curtains? Because the utterances in public spheres causes emotional instability among the population. Why can't it be handled in a more dignified way, other than the back and forth?
I think I need to talk to his doctor to handle it behind the scenes, in a dignified way, so that he doesn't keep making those attempts. And I thank you.
Yes, if you listen to that, he actually made that statement saying, we are not going to arrest him. It is upon him to present himself. It is his patriotic duty to present himself to DCI and write a statement about what he knows about the deal. And I've seen, of course, in Parliament, this taking turns and twists, with them demanding that, Rigathi should be arrested, Rigathi should be banned from coming into the country, and there is this and that about Rigathi Gachagua. And today, I listened to a statement from Malala.
Decay, turning what should be the heart of our democracy into an auction house for our sovereignty and birthright of generations to come. While our party leader was abroad, forging a path for democracy renewal, the regime was hatching a dangerous and cold-blooded plot. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Interior Minister Kipchumba Murkomen have shamelessly issued public threats to arrest His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua upon his arrival. Intelligence reaching us points to a scheme so evil, so cowardly, that it chills the soul. Their intent is to subject our party leader to slow and silent assassination by poisoning, the very same cruel method once inflicted on the late Kenneth Matiba while in state custody. This is not hearsay. It is a deliberate plot to silence the voice of the people of Kenya by physically destroying its leadership. Their plan upon our party leader's arrival at JKIA is to abduct, intimidate, brutalize, and eventually place him under house arrest, cut him off from his supporters, and deny him the right to address the nation. They want to kill his voice and his body at the same time. But let this be crystal clear. If they dare lay a hand on him, the country will grind to a halt. They did this during his impeachment. He responded by asking his supporters to stand down and protest by singing melodies. But this time round, let the plotters know that the song is different. The rhythm is tougher, and we will turn into a cacophony of defiance. There comes a time when enough has to be enough, and that time is now. Honorable Nelson Koech, the chairperson of the National Assembly Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, has revealed another calculated provocation, a plan to divert His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua's flight to Mombasa or Kisumu International Airports so that they deny him an opportunity to give a much anticipated address to the nation. This disruptive plan by a paranoid regime will not only disrupt.
Talking about that impending arrest of Rigathi Gachagua at the JKIA. In fact, let me say, the discussion about arresting Gachagua is a threat strategy. It's a threat strategy. Probably it has come after Rigathi made a statement that he was coming back into the country. Something I'm going to look into. I'm going to look into fully. And if someone was thinking, the threat strategy here is that, you know, probably if they say they're arresting him, you'll stay long in the US, number one. Or by saying we are arresting is to divert the attention of the country. And they arrested to divert the attention of the country from the discussions about a media. I've always been saying, and in this podcast I've said, again, they've said so many things about President William Ruto, and President's handlers always respond. They always say, hey, Rigathi is a madman. Oh, Rigathi is that. But one they failed to respond, one they've always gone silent about is this one about South Sudan. When they say, you tell you, oh, Rigathi is mad. When you talk about it, they tell you, oh, Bana, Rigathi is madman. We don't want to talk with the madman. We don't want to talk with the madman. And that has been the issue here. I would be interested to see if they would actually make true the threat to arrest Rigathi. Now let's go here. He has announced today that he's coming back into the country. He's rushing back into the country to plan for the by-elections, which is a very welcome call. Now, it should be known, Rigathi was supposed to be in the US for 2 months. And that means by the end of he was supposed to come back probably the second week of September, because he left the second week, he left Kenya the second week of July. So if you come the second week of September, that would have been 2 months. And during the US tour, if it is about talking to the diaspora about the Kenyan situation, I think he's done it. And the president and his team have been trailing him in the US. In fact, the Kenya Kwanza MPs pay more attention to what Rigathi is saying in the US than what the president is saying here in Kenya. And at this point, I want to explain why Rigathi handlers made a conscious decision to rush back to the country. And I want to first look at the issue of by-election. Rigathi has realized that in his absence, Kalonzo Musyoka, Matiang'i, and the opposition battalion has failed to take on President William Ruto. And this is it. While Rigathi is away, there are two stories that have emerged. Immediately Rigathi left, one story was Kalonzo Musyoka is the front runner as the opposition candidate. And the second story was that William Ruto is pursuing Kalonzo Musyoka to be the running mate. And in the corridors, this is the talk. When immediately Rigathi left, the expectation was that Kalonzo Musyoka and his team were going to charge the masses and they were going to take over and move with the opposition activities. No pun intended. Meru and Mukunji rallies in Embu, they were campaigning in Embu North, Mbere North, because there is a election going on there, more charged, and I'm yet to see Kalonzo Musyoka even campaigning in one area over these by-elections. This was Rigathi. Rigathi had to talk on phone with the residents of Mbere North. Here, look at this video here. Now, what you expect? There is by-elections in Banisa. There is a by-election in Magarini. There is a by-election here in Nairobi, Kariobangi. There is by-election in Malava. There is by-election in Ugunja. There is several MCA by-elections in Nyamira. Wiper Party was having some very good inroads in Nyamira. Wiper Party have very good inroads in Garissa. The same to Kilifi. But it's been silent and out of touch completely, even despite of these announcements. So truth be told, and I've heard people saying we want to remove Ruto and we can't replace Ruto with Gachagua. True. But I will face this camera and tell you, anyone talking about removing Ruto must have Gachagua at that equation. And that is what his absence while in the US has proved. Without him, that opposition could not even get 5 seconds of primetime news in Kenyan mainstream media. Yes, it could not. They had no information. Even not, look, do you know that DCP MPs were running very successful rallies? I even saw Malala in Migori doing a political rally. I don't know whether Matiang'i jetted back in the country from the US, but has not been seen. So look at how things are. So that is one thing that Rigathi has realized, that the opposition is slowly losing its foot, and that can be a very good loophole for it to be infiltrated. That's the first reason, and that is why the issue of by-elections are actually there. In fact, the by-elections is a defining moment for opposition and government. We are going to look at that, the Super Thursday, 27th of November. And we'll choose where our team, probably us, will be based. And you will understand one thing, that it's either government losing it or the opposition taking it away. And those by-elections are defining moment. Number two, I think the issue of another reason why Rigathi is coming back is the issue of being trailed in the US. Someone was actually telling me that US is a democratic country. And Of course, you don't expect the shenanigans of blocking Rigathi convoy here and there. You don't expect things to be happening to Rigathi here and there. But of course, Rigathi is coming back using a plane yenye inabeba passengers wengine. It's not a chartered plane. That's number one. Rigathi is coming back and is going to use the airport, and there are different terminals that is going to use. Of course, not to Kenya directly. There's a direct flight to New York to here, but it will also use other routes. Oscar Sudi was dispatched to US. According to one of our analysts I saw was saying that Oscar Sudi was dispatched to try to convince Rigathi Gachagua to back William Ruto in 2027. But Oscar Sudi was there daring Rigathi for it. Why probably he's ended those engagements is that probably he understands that government changed tactic, and the likes of Oscar Sudi, who were dispatched in the US, probably had a brief to ensure that his meetings are infiltrated by other people that will go against him. Yes. Remember, he's been facing some bit of hostility, and then those meetings that he will proceed with, probably those other areas you're supposed to go, his own intel told him about why he was there and wanted to do. That's another thing. The other second reason here is the other third point is here his program is already infiltrated. And if there are other engagements, I want to believe there are other engagements, then those engagements, or that the state knows his next step. Someone is telling me, who is having evidence that Rigathi Gachagua was to be in the US for 2 months? Probably no. Probably he was there for a special mission on the state of politics in the country. And he has spoken to the American intelligence team about the state of affairs in this country. Having served as a vice president, as a deputy president in Kenya, he's a person of the interest. He's a person of interest in the US. Remember, while he's there, there's a report that has castigated Kenya in the red line on human rights grounds. So there are so many other aspects that are coming on at this point. And clearly, he's laying it clear on what he needs to do at this point. The other issue, and I've realized that in his absence, Ruto never stepped to Mount Kenya. Not even a single day. I don't remember when last Ruto stepped to Mount Kenya. He actually stopped going there. He once had a tour probably in April. Is it April or May? I think May. He's never gone there. So he never went. And that is a very clear, despite of meetings that were convened, you know, that libers to go and be there. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my take. And I still want to repeat that if there is a plan to arrest Gachagua, then that is misadvised. At this point, I think that is not the right advice that the president should take. Thank you.